Latrell Sprewell is known in NBA history as the guy who choked out his own coach, doing so in 1997, leading him to being suspended for the rest of the season and losing over $6 million. Although Sprewell is very likely the only player to ever choke the coach of his team, his career was not over after the incident, as after paying his dues, he went back to making millions of dollars per year in the NBA. You may ask how this is possible. How someone that can make such a poor choice can still be in the NBA? And the simple answer to that is that Latrell Sprewell was quite a good basketball player. Even after getting suspended in 1997 at the age of 27, he went on to make another All-Star game a few years later while he was on the New York Knicks. Even through his 30s, Sprewell was progressively making more and more money than he ever had before. By the time the 2003 NBA season had rolled around, Sprewell was 33 years old on a new team, the Minnesota Timberwolves, and he was making the most money of his career, which was $13.5 million for that season, which adjusted to inflation would be about $20 million today. The year after that, Sprewell made nearly $15 million. This is all to say that Sprewell was in a very good financial position, making the best money of his career, even though he was steadily declining in his playing ability. The decline in his ability is probably why the Minnesota Timberwolves then offered Sprewell a smaller contract than he anticipated at the end of the 2004-2005 season. At 35 years old, there wasn't much more time for Sprewell to be a large contributor on an NBA team. The writing was on the wall. He averaged less than 13 points per game the previous season, the lowest of his career, which was also 4 less points per game than the season before that. It was only a matter of time before Sprewell couldn't keep up with the rest of the league's talent. So for this reason, the Minnesota Timberwolves offered Latrell Sprewell a 3-year, $21 million contract, which ends up being $7 million per season. Even though $7 million was less than half the amount that Sprewell had received in the previous season, it was still good money for an NBA player. And putting this into perspective, $7 million would have put him in 87th of 478 eligible players during the 2005-2006 NBA season. Also, considering that by the end of the 3-year contract, Latrell Sprewell would be 38 years old and probably a pretty useless NBA player, I don't think this was an insulting deal. However, Latrell Sprewell begged to differ, and he declined the offer. When asked about why Sprewell denied the Minnesota Timberwolves offer, he responded, "I told you I needed to feed my family. They offered me 3 years at $21 million. That's not going to cut it." I don't know about you, but I think $7 million is more than enough to feed one's family for an entire year. As a matter of fact, the average 4-person family in 2005 in America had a household income of about $65,000. Meaning that Latrell Sprewell's income was equivalent to that of 107 families in America during that time. And keep in mind that the $65,000 a year was the average, so there's a lot of families that were making a lot less money than that. So Sprewell turned down the Timberwolves contract, and sadly for him, he never got a higher offer. This mistake was career-ending for Sprewell, which is pretty interesting considering his history. Looking back at Sprewell's statement that $7 million per year wasn't enough to feed his family, it's kind of strange that he never took the offer if it truly wasn't enough for his living expenses, because if $7 million isn't enough, then no money certainly isn't going to cut it. And also, there's literally no other jobs that will pay you $7 million per year. Putting this in context, in 2020, there was 23,000 American households that generated over $10 million in income, meaning that probably less than 1 in 10,000 people could bring in such a large income. And Latrell Sprewell was most definitely not going to find another job to do that. At the end of the day, the story of Latrell Sprewell declining a 3-year, $21 million contract should be an eye-opener to everyone to not be greedy. As after a couple years out of the NBA, many rumors spread that Latrell Sprewell was down to his last dollar. Do you think Latrell Sprewell should have accepted the contract? What do you think about his decision? Let me know what you think in the comment section, and remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel to show your support. Thanks for watching.